Welcome everybody to this fifth session of the online Srimad Bhagavad Gita Parayan and Satsang 2022, which is being organized by Gita Jayanti, Singapore. So this is basically an effort to cover the entire Bhagavad Gita in 18 sessions, so as to complete before the Mokshada Ekadashi Parayan, which is going to do, which will happen on the 4th of December at the PGP Hall, physically, not an online platform like this. And so that time, this basically is something like covering the entire Gita and as a kind of training to get familiarized with the whole Bhagavad Gita itself. And on top of the Bhagavad Gita, we also have things like talk on the portions being discussed, and also we have a small quiz segment in it to basically go deeper into the text that is covered in today's session. So we welcome again all of you, and today's our guest of honor for today is Sri Alok Pandaji, who is the president of Odia Society, and our speaker for today is Mrs. Srimati Praveena Anandji, who is a very well-known speaker on Vedanta as well as Sri Vaishnavism and Bhagavad Gita in Singapore. And on top of that, she has many other distinct abilities and capabilities, of which we talk about when we introduce her. So, okay, so without much ado, let's get started. And I will invite Sunilji to start with the invocation mantras.
Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidyushavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shuklam Bharadharam Vishnum Shashivarnam Chadurbhujam Prasannavadanam Dhyayet Sarva Vikhnopashantaye. Saraswati Namastubhyam Varate Kamarupini Vidyarambham Karishyami Siddhir Bhavatu Me Sata Sarva Mangalamangkalye Shive Sarvartha Sadhike Sharanye Trimbage Gauri Narayani Namostute Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsachanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum.
Thank you so much to our Sunilji for the invocatory mantras. And now is the time for the welcome address by the guest of honor for today. Is Mr. Alok Pandaji, who is, as I said earlier, is the president of Odia Society and a very ardent family supporter of our activities for so many years. And they've been, Odia Society was the lead organization for Gita Jayanti a couple of years ago. And he and his family are all actively following this Gita chanting, and we are very, very glad to invite you, and it's a really immense pleasure to have you as a guest of honor for today. So over to you, Alokji.
Thank KKG. First of all, thanks to Gita Jayanti team, Srinivasanji, KKG, for giving this opportunity to Odia Society of Singapore to participate in this noble and pious, event. And on behalf of the Odia Society of Singapore, I welcome all you to this fifth session. This is the Silver Jubilee year, and really I congratulate the Gita Jayanti team and all the societies associated to bring this to a stage that we have reached this, big milestones. I'm pretty sure a lot of activities are planned, and you people are you may be aware of it. But most interestingly, I would like to just cite a coincidence. I'm not sure, KKZ, whether you have realized this is exactly the same session. Last year, I was invited to speak. This year, it was just one session before, but I had some challenge and I had to reschedule it. And it coincided to this chapter 4, where I was, welcoming all of you, and I'm doing the same thing today. First of all, I would like to thank all of you for this participation, and moreover, I would like to congratulate you and for really sincerely, following these chanting sessions. Not only that, also getting all the knowledge and wisdom from this and practicing in day-to-day life. So congratulations for that. And going into the depth of it, the good thing that I have seen in this forum is that not only that we are practicing the chanting, we also, going into the following segment of getting to understand the gist of it and what it is meant for us in our life. And that's where the beauty is, that one is the chanting and also getting to know the meaning of it and how we can do it in a day-to-day life. And while we have a depth session later on by Mataji, I would just like to correlate it in terms of what is happening today here, which is exactly what we are doing it. And the beauty is we are transiting from chapter 3 to chapter 4. And if we really correlate and look at the efforts, the karma that the Gita Jayanti team is doing in terms of their actions for the benefit of all, effortlessly, they have been doing this without any agitation, year after year. And more so ever, if you look at when we hit the COVID 2 years back, we are very used to face-to-face. We never knew that we will have an online forum. And when we talk about this karma, it's always says that we need to do things. And there is no option to say that, okay, we need to be idle and we can't do anything because we have a situation there. And if we take that and apply it in terms of what this team has done, they have come out with this, online forum, and they have not only made it for this Singapore, the Hindu, followers or the societies and the people, but it is now it has reached out to overseas, and all those people are doing it. So as a part of the transition, if you look at, they have done it beautifully. And coming to this, they need certain knowledge, the wisdom and others, right, in chapter 4, which we'll be listening today. And they have done it so beautifully with that we have standard, some business conduct in terms of how basically we are going to act and react in this forum. And this is a beautiful example of how basically we are practicing Gita in our day-to-day life. And for that, really, I thanks to the entire team, Srinivasanji, KKG, and the whole, Gita Jayanti team and the IT team, who are behind this in terms of bringing this beautiful, life lessons to all of you. So once again, thank you. I will not go, more on this in the interest of time. Once again, on behalf of Gita Jayanti and Odia Society of Singapore, I would like to welcome all of you in this session. Enjoy this session. Thank you very much. Hari Om. Over to you, KKG.
Thank you so much, Alokji. So for those beautiful words. I really didn't know that last time also you spoke exactly the same for the same chapter. Like you said, this chapter is going to talk about what is karma, what is akarma, what is vikarma. what should be done, what should not be done, and what should be avoided, and things like that. So the nature of karma is the complexity of the karma. Bhagavan Krishna himself says the path of the karmas are quite complex. He himself says in this chapter 4, and also has very many beautiful of the verses of very often quoted verses of Bhagavad Gita happens to be there in this chapter, and it also tells you the logical basis, the jnana behind how we should act. So that is the whole idea here. And of course we listen to our speaker for today, Praveena ji, on this topic. She will speak at length on this topic. So she has already joined. So welcome to Praveena ji also. So now let's get back to our normal thing. Thank you once again, Alok ji. So now we get back to our normal procedure. So first we start with the Gita Dhyanam, which will be done by Vinaji, followed by we will have the actual Gita portions for today. So over to Vinaji for Gita Dhyanam.
Hari Om. Atha Gita Dhyanam. Om Parthaya Pratibodhitam Bhagavata Narayanena Swayam Vyasena Krathitam Purana Munina Madhye Mahabharatam Advaitamrita Varshinim Bhagavatim Ashtadashadhyayinim Ambatvam Anusandadhami Bhagavad Gite Bhavadveshini Namostute Vyasa Vishala Buddhe Pullara Vindayata Patranetra Yena Tvaya Bharata Taila Purnaha Prajvalito Jnanamaya Pradipaha Prapanna Parijataya Totra Vetraika Panaye Jnana Mudraya Krishnaya Gita Mritaduhe Namaha Sarvopanishado Gavaha Dogdha Gopalanandanaha Partho Vatsasudhir Bhokta Dugdham Gitamritam Mahat Vasudeva Sutan Devam Kausachanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum Bhishmadronatata Jayatratha Gandhara Nilotpala Shalyagrahavati Kripena Vahani Karnena Velakula Ashwathama Vikarna Ghora Makara Duryodhana Vartini Sotirna Khalu Pandavairana Nadi Kaivartaka Keshavaha Parasharya Vachas Saroja Mamalam Gitartha Gandhotkatam Nana Kyanaka Kesarau Harikatha Sambodhana Bodhitam Loke Satchana Shatpadairaharaha Pepiyamanam Muda Bhuyat Bharata Pankajam Kalimala Pradvausina Shreyase Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangullanghayate Girim Yatkripatamaham Vande Paramanandamadhavam Yam Brahma Varunendra Rudra Marutaha Stunvanti Divyaistavaihi Vedai Sangapadakramopanishadair Gayanti Yam Samaga ध्यानावस्थिततर्कतेन मनसा पश्यन्ति यै योगिनः यस्यान्तन्न विदुः सुरान् सुरगणा देवाय तस्मै नमः देवाय तस्मै नमः.
Thank you so much. Wonderfully chanted by Vinay. Sorry, I was muted. Okay, now we get into the actual Gita Parayan session. So today we'll be covering chapter 4, the full chapter, the 42 verses sloka 1 to sloka 42. And please pay attention also to the meanings of the of each verse given at the bottom of every slide that's being presented here, so that we can understand what this verse tries to convey also. So over to Sunilji and Lataji.
अथ चतुर्थोऽध्यायः ज्ञानकर्मसन्न्यासयोगः श्रीभगवानुवाच
श्रीभगवानुवाच
इमं विवस्वते योगम्
इमं विवस्वते योगम्
प्रोक्तवानहमव्ययम्
प्रोक्तवानहमव्ययम्
विवस्वान्मनवे प्राह
विवस्वान्मनवे प्राह
मनुरिक्ष्वाकवे ब्रवीत्
मनुरिक्ष्वाकवे ब्रवीत्
श्रीभगवानुवाच इमं विवस्वते योगम् प्रोक्तवानहमव्ययम् विवस्वान्मनवे प्राह मनुरिक्ष्वाकवे ब्रवीत्
श्रीभगवानुवाच इमं विवस्वते योगम् प्रोक्तवानहमव्ययम् विवस्वान्मनवे प्राह मनुरिक्ष्वाकवे ब्रवीत्
एवं परम्परा प्राप्तम्
एवं परम्परा प्राप्तम्
इमं राजर्षयो विदुः
इमं राजर्षयो विदुः
सकाले नेह महता
सकाले नेह महता
योगो नष्टः परन्तप
योगो नष्टः परन्तप
एवं परम्परा प्राप्तम् इमं राजर्षयो विदुः सकाले नेह महता योगो नष्टः परन्तप
एवं परम्परा प्राप्तम् इमं राजर्षयो विदुः सकाले नेह महता योगो नष्टः परन्तप
स एवायं मया तेद्य
स एवायं मया तेद्य
योगः प्रोक्तः पुरातनः
योगः प्रोक्तः पुरातनः
भक्तोऽसि मे सखा चेति
भक्तोऽसि मे सखा चेति
रहस्यं ह्येतदुत्तमम्
रहस्यं ह्येतदुत्तमम्
स एवायं मया तेद्य योगः प्रोक्तः पुरातनः भक्तोऽसि मे सखा चेति रहस्यं ह्येतदुत्तमम्
स एवायं मया तेद्य योगः प्रोक्तः पुरातनः भक्तोऽसि मे सखा चेति रहस्यं ह्येतदुत्तमम्
Arjuna Uvacha
Arjuna Uvacha
Aparam Bhavato Janma
Aparam Bhavato Janma
Param Janma Vivasvataha
Param Janma Vivasvataha
Kathametat Vijaniyam
Kathametat Vijaniyam
Amadau Proktavaniti
Tvamadau Proktavaniti
Arjuna Uvacha Aparam Bhavato Janma Param Janma Vivasvataha Kathametat Vijaniyam Tvamadau Proktavaniti
Arjuna Uvacha Aparam Bhavato Janma Param Janma Vivasvataha Kathametat Vijaniyam Tvamadau Proktavaniti
Shri Bhagavanu Vacha
Shri Bhagavanu Vacha
Bahuni me vyatitani
Bahuni me vyatitani
Janmani tava charjuna
Janmani tava charjuna
Tanyaham Veda Sarvani
Tanyaham Veda Sarvani
Natvam Vetha Parantapa
Natvam Vetha Parantapa
He Bhagavanu Vacha Bahuni me vyatitani Janmani tava charjuna Tanyaham Veda Sarvani Natvam Vetha Parantapa
Shri Bhagavanu Vacha Bahuni me vyatitani Janmani tava charjuna Tanyaham Veda Sarvani Natvam Vetha Parantapa Ajopi Sannavyayatma
Ajopi sannavyayatma
Bhutanamishwaropi san
Bhutanamishwaropi san
Prakritim Swamadhisthaya
Prakritim swamadhisthaya
Sambhavam Yatma Mayaya
Sambhavamyatma mayaya
Ajopi Sannavyayatma Bhutanamishwaropi san Prakritim Swamadhisthaya Sambhavam Yatma Mayaya
Ajopi sannavyayatma Bhutanamishwaropi san Prakritim swamadhisthaya Sambhavamyatma mayaya
Yada yada hi dharmasya
Yada yada hi dharmasya
Glanirбhavati Bharata
Glanirbhavati Bharata
Abhyuthanamadharmasya
Abhyuthanamadharmasya
Tadatmanau srijamyaham
Tadatmanau srijamyaham
Yada yada hi dharmasya Glanirbhavati Bharata Abhyuthanamadharmasya Tadatmanau srijamyaham
Yada yada hi dharmasya Glanirbhavati Bharata Abhyuthanamadharmasya तदात्मानं सृजाम्यहम्
परित्राणाय साधूनां
परित्राणाय साधूनां
विनाशाय च दुष्कृतां
विनाशाय च दुष्कृतां
धर्म संस्थापनार्थाय
धर्म संस्थापनार्थाय
संभवामि युगे युगे
संभवामि युगे युगे
परित्राणाय साधूनां विनाशाय च दुष्कृतां धर्म संस्थापनार्थाय संभवामि युगे युगे
परित्राणाय साधूनां विनाशाय च दुष्कृतां धर्म संस्थापनार्थाय संभवामि युगे युगे
जन्म कर्म च मे दिव्यम्
जन्म कर्म च मे दिव्यम्
एवं यो वेत्ति तत्त्वतः
एवं यो वेत्ति तत्त्वतः
त्यक्त्वा देहं पुनर्जन्म
त्यक्त्वा देहं पुनर्जन्म
नैति मामेति सोऽर्जुन
नैति मामेति सोऽर्जुन
जन्म कर्म च मे दिव्यम् एवं यो वेत्ति तत्त्वतः त्यक्त्वा देहं पुनर्जन्म नैति मामेति सोऽर्जुन
जन्म कर्म च मे दिव्यम् एवं यो वेत्ति तत्त्वतः त्यक्त्वा देहं पुनर्जन्म नैति मामेति सोऽर्जुन
वीतराग भय क्रोधाः
वीतराग भय क्रोधाः
मन्मया मामुपाश्रिताः
मन्मया मामुपाश्रिताः
बहवो ज्ञानतपसा
बहवो ज्ञानतपसा
पूता मद्भावमागताः
पूता मद्भावमागताः
वीतराग भय क्रोधाः मन्मया मामुपाश्रिताः बहवो ज्ञानतपसा पूता मद्भावमागताः
वीतराग भय क्रोधाः मन्मया मामुपाश्रिताः बहवो ज्ञानतपसा पूता मद्भावमागताः ये यथा मां प्रपद्यन्ते
ये यथा मां प्रपद्यन्ते
तांस्तथैव भजाम्यहम्
तांस्तथैव भजाम्यहम्
मम वर्त्मानुवर्तन्ते
मम वर्त्मानुवर्तन्ते
मनुष्याः पार्थ सर्वशः
मनुष्याः पार्थ सर्वशः
ये यथा मां प्रपद्यन्ते तांस्तथैव भजाम्यहम् मम वर्त्मानुवर्तन्ते मनुष्याः पार्थ सर्वशः
ये यथा मां प्रपद्यन्ते तांस्तथैव भजाम्यहम् मम वर्त्मानुवर्तन्ते मनुष्याः पार्थ सर्वशः
काङ्क्षन्तः कर्मणां सिद्धिं
काङ्क्षन्तः कर्मणां सिद्धिं
यजन्त इह देवताः
यजन्त इह देवताः
क्षिप्रौ हि मानुषे लोके
क्षिप्रं हि मानुषे लोके
सिद्धिर्भवति कर्मजा
सिद्धिर्भवति कर्मजा
काङ्क्षन्तः कर्मणां सिद्धिं यजन्त इह देवताः क्षिप्रौ हि मानुषे लोके सिद्धिर्भवति कर्मजा
काङ्क्षन्तः कर्मणां सिद्धिं यजन्त इह देवताः क्षिप्रं हि मानुषे लोके सिद्धिर्भवति कर्मजा
चातुर्वर्ण्यं मया सृष्टं
चातुर्वर्ण्यं मया सृष्टं
गुणकर्म विभागशः
गुणकर्म विभागशः
तस्य कर्तारमपि मां
तस्य कर्तारमपि मां
विद्यकर्तारमव्ययम्
विद्यकर्तारमव्ययम्
चातुर्वर्ण्यं मया सृष्टं गुणकर्म विभागशः तस्य कर्तारमपि मां विद्यकर्तारमव्ययम्
चातुर्वर्ण्यं मया सृष्टं गुणकर्म विभागशः तस्य कर्तारमपि मां विद्यकर्तारमव्ययम्
न मां कर्माणि लिम्पन्ति
न मां कर्माणि लिम्पन्ति
न मे कर्मफले स्पृहा
न मे कर्मफले स्पृहा
इति माय्योऽभिजानाति
इति माय्योऽभिजानाति
कर्मभिर्न स बध्यते
कर्मभिर्न स बध्यते
न मां कर्माणि लिम्पन्ति न मे कर्मफले स्पृहा इति माय्योऽभिजानाति कर्मभिर्न स बध्यते
न मां कर्माणि लिम्पन्ति न मे कर्मफले स्पृहा इति माय्योऽभिजानाति कर्मभिर्न स बध्यते
एवं ज्ञात्वा कृतं कर्म
एवं ज्ञात्वा कृतं कर्म
पूर्वैरपि मुमुक्षुभिः
पूर्वैरपि मुमुक्षुभिः
कुरु कर्मैव तस्मात् त्वं
कुरु कर्मैव तस्मात् त्वं
पूर्वैः पूर्वतरं कृतं
पूर्वैः पूर्वतरं कृतम्
एवं ज्ञात्वा कृतं कर्म पूर्वैरपि मुमुक्षुभिः कुरु कर्मैव तस्मात् त्वं पूर्वैः पूर्वतरं कृतम्
एवं ज्ञात्वा कृतं कर्म पूर्वैरपि मुमुक्षुभिः कुरु कर्मैव तस्मात् त्वं पूर्वैः पूर्वतरं कृतम् किं कर्म किमकर्मेति
किं कर्म किमकर्मेति
कवयोऽप्यत्र मोहिताः
कवयोऽप्यत्र मोहिताः
तत्ते कर्म प्रवक्ष्यामि
तत्ते कर्म प्रवक्ष्यामि
यज्ञात्वा मोक्ष्यसे शुभात्
यज्ञात्वा मोक्ष्यसे शुभात्
किं कर्म किमकर्मेति कवयोऽप्यत्र मोहिताः तत्ते कर्म प्रवक्ष्यामि यज्ञात्वा मोक्ष्यसे शुभात्
किं कर्म किमकर्मेति कवयोऽप्यत्र मोहिताः तत्ते कर्म प्रवक्ष्यामि यज्ञात्वा मोक्ष्यसे शुभात्
कर्मणो ह्यपि बोद्धव्यम्
कर्मणो ह्यपि बोद्धव्यम्
बोद्धव्यं च विकर्मणः
बोद्धव्यं च विकर्मणः
अकर्मणश्च बोद्धव्यम्
अकर्मणश्च बोद्धव्यम्
गहना कर्मणो गतिः
गहना कर्मणो गतिः
कर्मणो ह्यपि बोद्धव्यम् बोद्धव्यं च विकर्मणः अकर्मणश्च बोद्धव्यम् गहना कर्मणो गतिः
कर्मणो ह्यपि बोद्धव्यम् बोद्धव्यं च विकर्मणः अकर्मणश्च बोद्धव्यम् गहना कर्मणो गतिः
कर्मण्यकर्म यः पश्येत्
कर्मण्यकर्म यः पश्येत्
अकर्मणि च कर्म यः
अकर्मणि च कर्म यः
स बुद्धिमान् मनुष्येषु
स बुद्धिमान् मनुष्येषु
स युक्तः कृत्स्नकर्म कृत्
स युक्तः कृत्स्नकर्मकृत्
कर्मण्यकर्म यः पश्येत् अकर्मणि च कर्म यः स बुद्धिमान् मनुष्येषु स युक्तः कृत्स्नकर्म कृत्
कर्मण्यकर्म यः पश्येत् अकर्मणि च कर्म यः स बुद्धिमान् मनुष्येषु स युक्तः कृत्स्नकर्मकृत्
यस्य सर्वे समारम्भाः
यस्य सर्वे समारम्भाः
कामसङ्कल्पवर्जिताः
कामसङ्कल्पवर्जिताः
ज्ञानाग्निदग्धकर्माणम्
ज्ञानाग्निदग्धकर्माणम्
तमाहुः पण्डितं बुधाः
तमाहुः पण्डितं बुधाः
यस्य सर्वे समारम्भाः कामसङ्कल्पवर्जिताः ज्ञानाग्निदग्धकर्माणम् तमाहुः पण्डितं बुधाः
यस्य सर्वे समारम्भाः कामसङ्कल्पवर्जिताः ज्ञानाग्निदग्धकर्माणम् तमाहुः पण्डितं बुधाः
त्यक्त्वा कर्मफलासङ्गम्
त्यक्त्वा कर्मफलासङ्गम्
नित्यतृप्तो निराश्रयः
नित्यतृप्तो निराश्रयः
कर्मण्यभिप्रवृत्तोऽपि
कर्मण्यभिप्रवृत्तोऽपि
नैव किञ्चित् करोति सः
नैव किञ्चित् करोति सः
त्यक्त्वा कर्मफलासङ्गम् नित्यतृप्तो निराश्रयः कर्मण्यभिप्रवृत्तोऽपि नैव किञ्चित् करोति सः
त्यक्त्वा कर्मफलासङ्गम् नित्यतृप्तो निराश्रयः कर्मण्यभिप्रवृत्तोऽपि नैव किञ्चित् करोति सः निराशीर्यत चित्तात्मा
निराशीर्यत चित्तात्मा
त्यक्त सर्वपरिग्रहः
त्यक्त सर्वपरिग्रहः
शारीरं केवलं कर्म
शारीरं केवलं कर्म
कुर्वन्नाप्नोति किल्बिषम्
कुर्वन्नाप्नोति किल्बिषम्
निराशीर्यत चित्तात्मा त्यक्त सर्वपरिग्रहः शारीरं केवलं कर्म कुर्वन्नाप्नोति किल्बिषम्
निराशीर्यत चित्तात्मा त्यक्त सर्वपरिग्रहः शारीरं केवलं कर्म कुर्वन्नाप्नोति किल्बिषम्
यदृच्छालाभसन्तुष्टः
यदृच्छालाभसन्तुष्टः
द्वन्द्वातीतो विमत्सरः
द्वन्द्वातीतो विमत्सरः
समसिद्धावसिद्धौ च
समसिद्धावसिद्धौ च
कृत्वापि न निबध्यते
कृत्वापि न निबध्यते
यदृच्छालाभसन्तुष्टः द्वन्द्वातीतो विमत्सरः समसिद्धावसिद्धौ च कृत्वापि न निबध्यते
यदृच्छालाभसन्तुष्टः द्वन्द्वातीतो विमत्सरः समसिद्धावसिद्धौ च कृत्वापि न निबध्यते
गतसङ्गस्य
मुक्तस्य
ज्ञानावस्थितचेतसः
ज्ञानावस्थितचेतसः
यज्ञायाचरतः कर्म
यज्ञायाचरतः कर्म
समग्रं प्रविलीयते
समग्रं प्रविलीयते
गतसङ्गस्य मुक्तस्य ज्ञानावस्थितचेतसः यज्ञायाचरतः कर्म समग्रं प्रविलीयते
गतसङ्गस्य मुक्तस्य ज्ञानावस्थितचेतसः यज्ञायाचरतः कर्म समग्रं प्रविलीयते
ब्रह्मार्पणं ब्रह्महविः
ब्रह्मार्पणं ब्रह्महविः
ब्रह्माग्नौ ब्रह्मणाहुतं
ब्रह्माग्नौ ब्रह्मणाहुतं
ब्रह्मैव तेन गन्तव्यम्
ब्रह्मैव तेन गन्तव्यम्
ब्रह्मकर्म समाधिना
ब्रह्मकर्म समाधिना
ब्रह्मार्पणं ब्रह्महविः ब्रह्माग्नौ ब्रह्मणाहुतं ब्रह्मैव तेन गन्तव्यम् ब्रह्मकर्म समाधिना
ब्रह्मार्पणं ब्रह्महविः ब्रह्माग्नौ ब्रह्मणाहुतं ब्रह्मैव तेन गन्तव्यम् ब्रह्मकर्म समाधिना
दैवमेवापरे यज्ञम्
दैवमेवापरे यज्ञम्
योगिनः पर्युपासते
योगिनः पर्युपासते
ब्रह्माज्ञावपरे यज्ञम्
ब्रह्माज्ञावपरे यज्ञम्
यज्ञेनैवोपजुह्वति
यज्ञेनैवोपजुह्वति
दैवमेवापरे यज्ञम् योगिनः पर्युपासते ब्रह्माज्ञावपरे यज्ञम् यज्ञेनैवोपजुह्वति
दैवमेवापरे यज्ञम् योगिनः पर्युपासते ब्रह्माज्ञावपरे यज्ञम् यज्ञेनैवोपजुह्वति श्रोत्रादीनीन्द्रियाण्यन्ये
श्रोत्रादीनीन्द्रियाण्यन्ये
संयमाग्निषु जुह्वति
संयमाग्निषु जुह्वति
शब्दादीन् विषयानन्ये
शब्दादीन् विषयानन्ये
इन्द्रियाग्निषु जुह्वति
इन्द्रियाग्निषु जुह्वति
श्रोत्रादीनीन्द्रियाण्यन्ये संयमाग्निषु जुह्वति शब्दादीन् विषयानन्ये इन्द्रियाग्निषु जुह्वति
श्रोत्रादीनीन्द्रियाण्यन्ये संयमाग्निषु जुह्वति शब्दादीन् विषयानन्ये इन्द्रियाग्निषु जुह्वति
सर्वाणीन्द्रियकर्माणि
सर्वाणीन्द्रियकर्माणि
प्राणकर्माणि चापरे
प्राणकर्माणि चापरे
आत्मसंयमयोगाग्नौ
आत्मसंयमयोगाग्नौ
जुह्वति ज्ञानदीपिते
जुह्वति ज्ञानदीपिते
सर्वाणीन्द्रियकर्माणि प्राणकर्माणि चापरे आत्मसंयमयोगाग्नौ जुह्वति ज्ञानदीपिते
सर्वाणीन्द्रियकर्माणि प्राणकर्माणि चापरे आत्मसंयमयोगाग्नौ जुह्वति ज्ञानदीपिते
द्रव्ययज्ञास्तपोयज्ञाः
द्रव्ययज्ञास्तपोयज्ञाः
योगयज्ञास्तथा परे
योगयज्ञास्तथा परे
स्वाध्यायज्ञानयज्ञाश्च
स्वाध्यायज्ञानयज्ञाश्च
यतयः संशितव्रताः
यतयः संशितव्रताः
द्रव्ययज्ञास्तपोयज्ञाः योगयज्ञास्तथा परे स्वाध्यायज्ञानयज्ञाश्च यतयः संशितव्रताः
द्रव्ययज्ञास्तपोयज्ञाः योगयज्ञास्तथा परे स्वाध्यायज्ञानयज्ञाश्च यतयः संशितव्रताः
अपाने जुह्वति प्राणम्
अपाने जुह्वति प्राणम्
प्राणे पानं तथा परे
प्राणे पानं तथा परे
प्राणापानगतिरुद्ध्वा
प्राणापानगतिरुद्ध्वा
प्राणायाय परायणाः
प्राणायामपरायणाः
अपाने जुह्वति प्राणम् प्राणे पानं तथा परे प्राणापानगतिरुद्ध्वा प्राणायामपरायणाः
अपाने जुह्वति प्राणम् प्राणे पानं तथा परे प्राणापानगतिरुद्ध्वा प्राणायामपरायणाः
अपरे नियताहाराः
अपरे नियताहाराः
प्राणान् प्राणेषु जुह्वति
प्राणान् प्राणेषु जुह्वति
सर्वेऽप्येने यज्ञविदः
सर्वेऽप्येते यज्ञविदः
यज्ञक्षपितकल्मषाः
यज्ञक्षपितकल्मषाः
अपरे नियताहाराः प्राणान् प्राणेषु जुह्वति सर्वेप्येते यज्ञविदः यज्ञक्षपितकल्मषाः
अपरे नियताहाराः प्राणान् प्राणेषु जुह्वति सर्वेप्येते यज्ञविदः यज्ञक्षपितकल्मषाः यज्ञशिष्टामृतभुजः
यज्ञशिष्टामृतभुजः
यान्ति ब्रह्म सनातनम्
यान्ति ब्रह्म सनातनम्
नायं लोकोऽस्त्य यज्ञस्य
नायं लोकोऽस्त्य यज्ञस्य
कुतोऽन्यः कुरु सत्तमा
कुतोऽन्यः कुरु सत्तमा
यज्ञशिष्टामृतभुजः यान्ति ब्रह्म सनातनम् नायं लोकोऽस्त्य यज्ञस्य कुतोऽन्यः कुरु सत्तमा
यज्ञशिष्टामृतभुजः यान्ति ब्रह्म सनातनम् नायं लोकोऽस्त्य यज्ञस्य कुतोऽन्यः कुरु सत्तमा
एवं बहुविधा यज्ञाः
एवं बहुविधा यज्ञाः
वितता ब्रह्मणो मुखे
वितता ब्रह्मणो मुखे
कर्मजान् विद्धितान् सर्वान्
कर्मजान् विद्धितान् सर्वान्
एवं ज्ञात्वा विमोक्ष्यसे
एवं ज्ञात्वा विमोक्ष्यसे
एवं बहुविधा यज्ञाः वितता ब्रह्मणो मुखे कर्मजान् विद्धितान् सर्वान् एवं ज्ञात्वा विमोक्ष्यसे
एवं बहुविधा यज्ञाः वितता ब्रह्मणो मुखे कर्मजान् विद्धितान् सर्वान् एवं ज्ञात्वा विमोक्ष्यसे
श्रेयान् द्रव्यमयाद्यज्ञात्
श्रेयान् द्रव्यमयाद्यज्ञात्
ज्ञानयज्ञः परन्तप
ज्ञानयज्ञः परन्तप
सर्वं कर्माखिलं पार्थ
सर्वं कर्माखिलं पार्थ
ज्ञाने परिसमाप्यते
ज्ञाने परिसमाप्यते
श्रेयान् द्रव्यमयाद्यज्ञात् ज्ञानयज्ञः परन्तप सर्वं कर्माखिलं पार्थ ज्ञाने परिसमाप्यते
श्रेयान् द्रव्यमयाद्यज्ञात् ज्ञानयज्ञः परन्तप सर्वं कर्माखिलं पार्थ ज्ञाने परिसमाप्यते
तद्विद्धि प्रणिपातेन
तद्विद्धि प्रणिपातेन
परिप्रश्नेन सेवया
परिप्रश्नेन सेवया
उपदेक्ष्यन्ति ते ज्ञानम्
उपदेक्ष्यन्ति ते ज्ञानम्
ज्ञानिनस्तत्त्वदर्शिनः
ज्ञानिनस्तत्त्वदर्शिनः
तद्विद्धि प्रणिपातेन परिप्रश्नेन सेवया उपदेक्ष्यन्ति ते ज्ञानम् ज्ञानिनस्तत्त्वदर्शिनः
तद्विद्धि प्रणिपातेन परिप्रश्नेन सेवया उपदेक्ष्यन्ति ते ज्ञानम् ज्ञानिनस्तत्त्वदर्शिनः
यज्ञात्वा न पुनर्मोहम्
यज्ञात्वा न पुनर्मोहम्
एवं यास्यसि पाण्डव
एवं यास्यसि पाण्डव
येन भूतान्यशेषेण
येन भूतान्यशेषेण
द्रक्ष्यस्यात्मन्यथो मयि
द्रक्ष्यस्यात्मन्यथो मयि
यज्ञात्वा न पुनर्मोहम् एवं यास्यसि पाण्डव येन भूतान्यशेषेण द्रक्ष्यस्यात्मन्यथो मयि
यज्ञात्वा न पुनर्मोहम् एवं यास्यसि पाण्डव येन भूतान्यशेषेण द्रक्ष्यस्यात्मन्यथो मयि
अपि चेदसि पापेभ्यः सर्वेभ्यः पापकृत्तमः सर्वं
ज्ञानप्लवेनैव
वृजिनौ सन्तरिष्यसि
वृजिनं सन्तरिष्यसि
अपि चेदसि पापेभ्यः सर्वेभ्यः पापकृत्तमः सर्वं ज्ञानप्लवेनैव वृजिनौ सन्तरिष्यसि
अपि चेदसि पापेभ्यः सर्वेभ्यः पापकृत्तमः सर्वं ज्ञानप्लवेनैव वृजिनं सन्तरिष्यसि यथैधांसि समिद्धोऽग्निः
यथैधांसि समिद्धोऽग्निः
भस्मसात् कुरुतेऽर्जुन
भस्मसात् कुरुतेऽर्जुन
ज्ञानाग्निः सर्वकर्माणि
ज्ञानाग्निः सर्वकर्माणि
भस्मसात् कुरुते तथा
भस्मसात् कुरुते तथा
यथैधांसि समिद्धोऽग्निः भस्मसात् कुरुतेऽर्जुन ज्ञानाग्निः सर्वकर्माणि भस्मसात् कुरुते तथा
यथैधांसि समिद्धोऽग्निः भस्मसात् कुरुते अर्जुन ज्ञानाग्निः सर्वकर्माणि भस्मसात् कुरुते तथा
न हि ज्ञानेन सदृशम्
न हि ज्ञानेन सदृशम्
पवित्रमिह विद्यते
पवित्रमिह विद्यते
तत्स्वयं योगसंसिद्धः
तत्स्वयं योगसंसिद्धः
कालेनात्मनि विन्दति
कालेनात्मनि विन्दति
न हि ज्ञानेन सदृशं पवित्रमिह विद्यते तत्स्वयं योगसंसिद्धः कालेनात्मनि विन्दति
न हि ज्ञानेन सदृशं पवित्रमिह विद्यते तत्स्वयं योगसंसिद्धः कालेनात्मनि विन्दति
श्रद्धावान् लभते ज्ञानम्
श्रद्धावान् लभते ज्ञानम्
तत्परः संयतेन्द्रियः
तत्परः संयतेन्द्रियः
ज्ञानं लब्ध्वा परां शान्तिम्
ज्ञानं लब्ध्वा परां शान्तिम्
अचिरेणाधिगच्छति
अचिरेणाधिगच्छति
श्रद्धावान् लभते ज्ञानम् तत्परः संयतेन्द्रियः ज्ञानं लब्ध्वा परां शान्तिम् अचिरेणाधिगच्छति
श्रद्धावान् लभते ज्ञानम् तत्परः संयतेन्द्रियः ज्ञानं लब्ध्वा परां शान्तिम् अचिरेणाधिगच्छति
अज्ञश्च श्रद्धानश्च
अज्ञश्च श्रद्धधानश्च
संशयात्मा विनश्यति
संशयात्मा विनश्यति
नायं लोकोऽस्ति न परः
नायं लोकोऽस्ति न परः
न सुखं संशयात्मनः
न सुखं संशयात्मनः
अज्ञश्चाश्रद्धधानश्च संशयात्मा विनश्यति नायं लोकोऽस्ति न परः न सुखं संशयात्मनः
अज्ञश्चाश्रद्धधानश्च संशयात्मा विनश्यति नायं लोकोऽस्ति न परः न सुखं संशयात्मनः
योगसन्न्यस्तकर्माणं
योगसन्न्यस्तकर्माणं ज्ञानसञ्छिन्नसंशयम्
आत्मवन्तं न कर्माणि
आत्मवन्तं न कर्माणि
निबध्नन्ति धनञ्जय
निबध्नन्ति धनञ्जय
योगसन्न्यस्तकर्माणं ज्ञानसञ्छिन्नसंशयम् आत्मवन्तं न कर्माणि निबध्नन्ति धनञ्जय
योगसन्न्यस्तकर्माणं ज्ञानसञ्छिन्नसंशयम् आत्मवन्तं न कर्माणि निबध्नन्ति धनञ्जय
तस्मादज्ञानसम्भूतं हृत्स्थं ज्ञानासीनात्मनः
हृत्स्थं ज्ञानासीनात्मनः
चित्वैनं संशयं योगम्
चित्वैनं संशयं योगम्
आतिष्ठोत्तिष्ठ भारत
आदिष्ठोत्तिष्ठ भारत
तस्मादज्ञानसम्भूतं हृत्स्थं ज्ञानासीनात्मनः चित्वैनं संशयं योगम् आतिष्ठोत्तिष्ठ भारत
तस्मादज्ञानसम्भूतं हृत्स्थं ज्ञानासीनात्मनः चित्वैनं संशयं योगम् आतिष्ठोत्तिष्ठ भारत
ॐ तत्सत् इति श्रीमद्भगवद्गीतासु उपनिषत्सु ब्रह्मविद्यायां योगशास्त्रे श्रीकृष्णार्जुनसंवादे ज्ञानकर्मसन्न्यासयोगो नाम चतुर्थोऽध्यायः वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुम्
Thank you so much to all the beautiful chanters. So we completed the chanting session of the Bhagavad Gita today, and the meanings in the earlier slides given are by the great Gita commentators, both modern as well as ancient. Swami Chidananda ji, Swami Dayananda ji, Swami Gambhirananda ji, George Feuerstein, then Swami Vireshwarananda ji, Ekanathishwaran, Dr. S. Radhakrishnan, Swami Rama, and Yuan Maskarov. So now we move over to Gita Mahatmyam to be chanted by Padmini ji. Over to Padmini ji.
Om Shri Paramatmane Namaha. Atha Gita Mahatmyam. Gita Shastramidam Punyam. Yah Pathet Prayatah Puman. Vishnov Padamavapnoti. Bhayashokadivarjitah. गीताध्ययनशीलस्य प्राणायामपरस्य च नैव सन्ति हि पापानि पूर्वजन्मकृतानि च मलनिर्मोचनं पुंसां जलस्नानं दिने दिने सकृद्गीताम्भसि स्नानं संसारमलनाशनम् गीता सुगीता कर्तव्या किमन्यैः शास्त्रविस्तरैः या स्वयं पद्मनाभस्य मुखपद्माद्विनिसृता भारतामृतसर्वस्वं विष्णोर्वक्त्राद्विनिसृतं गीता गंगोदकं पीत्वा पुनर्जन्म न विद्यते सर्वोपनिषदो गावः दुग्धा गोपालनन्दनः पार्थो वत्सः सुधीर्भोक्ता दुग्धं गीतामृतं महत् एकं शास्त्रं देवकी पुत्रगीतम् एको देवो देवकी पुत्र एव एको मन्त्रस्तस्य नामानि यानि कर्माप्येकं तस्य देवस्य सेवा.
Thank you so much, Padmini ji, and also to all other our lead chanters for today. So now over to the talk for the session for today. This will be by Srimati Praveena Anand ji. So let me just, she's a well-known speaker in Singapore, and I will read out her brief bio so that people can get a feel of her. So Praveena ji is a multifaceted personality. She brings strong academics, rich global experience, and a growing passion to go deep into the Bharatiya traditions. She is a perfect blend of both academic credentials followed by passionate commitment to Sanatana Dharma, Sanskritam, and to Sri Vaishnavism. So Praveena's academic credentials include various things like executive program in business management, then MCA, then bachelor's in commerce, etc. And she's a practitioner of alternate medicine through, and a neuro-linguistic programming practitioner, and a hypnotherapist through. She's also a public speaker on various platforms. Praveena's platform is to learn and share the priceless knowledge treasure of India, as well as and it is her focus to learn, share this knowledge, and connect to day-to-day lives, and more importantly, share the scientific achievements of ancient India. Towards this, Praveena is a part of Samskrita Bharati, a body that espouses the importance of Sanskritam as a language where she constantly learns and imparts the language for effective use of people at large. Praveena has participated in various debates in television channels on current affairs and spoken on cultural ethos of Bharata. Her various speeches include video lectures on Sri Andal's Tirupavai, then a very interesting, deeply researched work on Bhagavan Sri Krishna's names, which occur in the Srimad Bhagavad Gita in a 100-episode series called as Nama Gita, fundamentals on Sanatana Dharma, etc. And she has also authored a book named Tip of the Iceberg, sharing interesting cross-cultural analysis. And her ebook on Swami Sri Vedanta Deshika has been published as Immersing in Deshika Anubhavam by sadagopan.org. So now, so we are really fortunate to have Praveena ji to be amongst us. So we warmly welcome you, Praveena ji, and over to you, Praveena ji. You have to unmute yourself.
Jai Shri Krishna. Namaste. Dhanyavadaha for the introduction, Mahodaya. Jnananandamayam devam nirmalaspatikakritim adharam sarva vidyanam hayagrivam upasmahe ekam shastram devaki putra geetam eko devo devaki putreva eko mantrastasya namani yani karmapyekam tasya devasya seva. Jai Shri Krishna. What a pleasant morning to listen to beautiful rendition of Bhagavad Gita, the fourth Adhyaya, Gita Mahatmyam. It's really set our tone to understand a little bit of what Bhagavan Krishna has, explained in this beautiful chapter. Because Ekam Shastram Devaki Putra Geetam, if we have to know one Shastra, let us understand the Shastra which is given by Bhagavan Krishna to us. Ekam Shastra, only one Shastra is sufficient for us. Eko Devo Devaki Putra Eva, and that is the essence of the fourth chapter we are going to see. If there is one Deva that we have to understand, it is our Bhagavan Krishna. Eko Mantrastasya Namani Yani, there are so many mantras which we can afford to know in this life, but if there is one mantra, it is Bhagavan Nama. Every Nama of Bhagavan is a mantra. And in chapter 4, the term Ishvara is used by Bhagavan himself to depict him. So, Ekona, if there is one name that we have to understand, it is Bhagavan Sri Krishna's names. Sahasranama is completely about the names of Krishna. And Bhagavad Gita contains so many names of Bhagavan Sri Krishna. One such very important name can be explored in the chapter 4, Ishvara. Eko mantrastasya namani karmat ekam tasya devasya seva. And again, this is related to 4th chapter. If we have one karma that we have to do, it is the seva to Bhagavan that has to be done. So very beautifully in this chapter, Bhagavan Krishna explains about kim karma, kim akarma, what all we have to know. What do we understand with the word karma? What is akarma? What is vikarma? Everything is explained by Bhagavan Sri Krishna. So if we look at the journey, all of us have gone through this journey, starting from the very first chapter. Now we are in the 4th chapter. So we can understand Bhagavad Gita from different perspectives. So in the very first chapter, what really happened? Arjuna was in his Vishada Yoga. All of us know that. And then everything there is about personal gain or loss. So Arjuna starts, in the first chapter, 32nd sloka, he says, Nakangshe Vijayam Krishna, Nacharajyam Sukanicha, Kim no Rajyena Govinda, Kim Bogai Jivitenava. Everything is about what's in it for me, what's in it for me. He says, I don't want the kingdom, I don't want to rule it. What is the purpose of the kingdom? What is the purpose of all the Bhogya? Sloka 35, he continues, Api Trailokya Rajyasya, even if I get to rule all the 3 worlds, what's in it for me? So it is basically like, a personal gain, personal benefit, which is looked at. And he's asking about what will happen to this dharma, what will happen to that dharma, forgetting what will happen to his swadharma. So Bhagavan starts explaining, 2nd, 3rd chapter to give a lot of different views on this perspective. So in the 2nd chapter, Bhagavan speaks about the nishkamya karma. Don't get attached to the fruits. So do whatever you're supposed to do. It is all for a higher purpose. Higher ideal is important. So do not attach yourself to the fruits. That's not the reason why you should perform. And then in this chapter, especially, after explaining about Karma Yoga earlier, Bhagavan now speaks about Jnana Yoga. It is the Jnana Vibhaga Yoga, as some acharyas explained to us. And some also call this as the Jnana Karma Sannyasa Yoga. It can be Jnana Karma Sannyasa or Jnana Karma Sannyasa. The way we interpret can actually make a lot of difference here. So this is again a very, very different mindset, or a very elevated mindset, to which Bhagavan actually moves us to. So here he speaks about looking at action in inaction. Inaction in action. How do we look at it? So understanding how we can work as a karma yogi is explained when we look at the Jnana Yoga part of it. So it is not about me or mine or how I perform anything. It is about, not me enjoying everything. It is not about things pertaining to me. Everything is Ishvara. How we do it as a, Adi Yajna, which Bhagavan will be explaining in 15th chapter. So the big picture perspective, how each of us do what we are supposed to do in order to do our part of the contribution to the Adi Yajna is brought out by Bhagavan. So overall, when we look at the 4th chapter, it is actually an extension of what we can see in the 3rd chapter. So ultimately, everything is a Yajna to Brahman. Very, very deep and subtle means of looking at the world is explored in the chapter 4. And how we develop this great vision. In order to understand such deep concepts, Bhagavan actually simplifies by explaining several different yajnas for us to identify. So how we should restrain our senses, how we should perform our yajnas, how we can worship the deities, so on and so forth. So many different things are explained. End of it, it is the jnana yajna. It is the sacrifice that we have to do by means of our knowledge, is very, very subtly and deeply brought out in this particular chapter. And in this process, Bhagavan gives a feel of the cosmic creation. He explains to us about the Ishwaratvam. He speaks about himself to us. Bhagavan explaining about himself to us, and we can get a first-hand experience, is actually there in this beautiful 4th chapter. So in order to get a feel of this, we should go back to Arjuna's previous question, because this is an extension of the 3rd chapter. So what did Arjuna question? Arjuna is asking in the 36th sloka of the 3rd chapter, Ata kena prayuktoham papam charati purusha anichannapi vashneya baladiva niyojitaha. So Arjuna is asking, why do people commit sin? Because even though we don't want to do something like that, it is as if by force we are pushed to perform certain things. Why is that happening, O Vashneya? So this was the question which Arjuna asked. So to this, Bhagavan gave a few answers in the 3rd chapter itself, where Bhagavan was saying, Kamayesha Krojayesha. Kama and Krodha, it is all about Kama, the desires. And in order to fulfill the desires, very beautifully, Bhagavan has explained in the 2nd chapter earlier itself, where he says, Dhyayato Vishayan Pumsaha Sangasteshu Pajayate Sangat Sanjayate Kamaha Kamat Krodo Abhijayate Krodat Bhavati Sammohaha Sammohat Smriti Vibramaha Smriti Bramshat Buddhinashaha Buddhinashat Pranashyati, right? So Kamat Bhavati Sammohaha Kamat Krodo Abhijayate. All these are very, very important statements. So in the 37th sloka in the 3rd chapter, Bhagavan says, Kamayesha Krodaesha Rajoguna Samudbhavaha. So all these lead to our Rajogunas, increase in the Rajoguna. The Kama, which is the desire, Krodha, which is the anger, these are the actual force for us. So we have to understand this concept. And then while concluding the 3rd chapter, what did Bhagavan say? Indriyani paran ahuhu. Indriyaiste paran manaha. So basically the cause and effect is beautifully told by Bhagavan here. Senses are the important obstacles to knowledge, because if we do not direct our senses in the right direction, if we do not control the senses, then it can go haphazard. The mind is higher than the senses. Indriyebhya param manaha. Manasastu para buddhihi. Buddhi is even greater than the mind. And finally, here is a very, very interesting part which we should contemplate on. Buddhehe parastastu saha. So here, even higher than the buddhi is saha. Bhagavan just uses a pronoun there. He says saha. So what does this saha mean? Different great acharyas have interpreted this very, very differently for us. And we would know that, according to Sri Shankara Bhashya, the saha would mean Atma. According to the Sri Madhva Bhashya, it would mean Paramatma itself. The saha in the final sloka of the 3rd chapter would mean Paramatma. And according to Sri Bhagavad Ramanuja Bhashya, it would mean the Kama. Kama is the saha. So depending on what is that saha, the entire 4th chapter can be looked at from different perspectives, which gives a very, very beautiful anubhava when we explore, interpret, introspect, and understand the concepts. So that is the lead which helps us move to the 4th chapter. And in the 4th chapter, we can have beautiful groupings. Typically the 4th chapter explains about Bhagavan. The Paratattva is explained by Bhagavan itself. That beauty is there in the 4th chapter. So the first 4 slokas, Bhagavan starts to explain about, look, I'm not telling all this to you just to convince you, that you have to perform your action, O Arjuna. I'm telling this not for the first time. I had told it earlier. So Bhagavan starts by narrating how he explained it. And then he explains about his own greatness. So hearing things from the horse's mouth, right? That is something which we can experience, which we will very soon experience. And after that, from the sloka 16 to 33, 18 slokas, Bhagavan explains various things which we have to know, we have to imbibe, we have to understand at a very deep level. He speaks about the different yajnas, everything comes under that. And finally, from the 34th sloka to the final sloka, 42nd sloka, is the part 3, where Bhagavan explains about the concept of how whatever we do, the karma leads us to the jnana, how jnana leads us to getting rid of all our sins, what is the pala of jnana, and how ultimately everything ties down to the bigger Adi Yajna, the ultimate Brahman. So we can understand the ultimate importance of jnana here. So that is how the entire flow actually happens. So here, for people who are interested in understanding the ultimate jnana, the physical impulses, we cannot stay in a place for a short time. When we start to focus, so many distractions come there. Sitting in dhyana for 10 minutes is, when all the unwanted thoughts keep coming. So we are pushed by action. We always have to keep doing anything, So just like how ants are busy, we always want to keep doing so many things. Therefore, performing action, performing karma yoga is a recommended practice for us, so that we can do what we are supposed to do, because that is a natural thing that we can do. But then if we are capable of doing jnana yoga, even then performing what we are supposed to perform becomes important, where Bhagavan explains this to us, where he says, yadyad acharati shreshtaha tat tadeva itaro janaha sa ya pramatam kurute lokaha tad anuvartate, right? So in the earlier chapter, he sets the context where he says that whatever, people who are role models to us, who lead us, perform, who are leaders, whatever actions they do, everybody else follows it. Sayat pramatam kurute, what is set as standards by them, other people will adhere to it. Therefore, Bhagavan says he himself is an example of this. Name patasti kartavyam trishu lokeshu kinchana. So I have nothing to be accomplished in all the 3 worlds, O Arjuna. But then if I don't do this, what is going to happen? People will start following me and they will end up not doing anything. Yadi hyahamnyavarteyam jatu karmanya tantritaha. So Krishna says, if I do not do, what will happen? So mama vartmanu vartante manushya pata sarvashaha. People will also not do it. So they will actually, have a downfall. I will not have anything, no difference for me. So what is the message here is, whatever even if we can follow jnana yoga, we have to perform our duties, because Krishna did that. He led us by example. So we can't give up just because something is, easier for us. So all this is to ensure that Arjuna does his duty. Arjuna is encouraged to do karma yoga by Bhagavan Krishna. He says, I myself am doing it. Why should Krishna go and drive a chariot here? He has no karmas to accomplish. Why did Krishna go as a Pandava Duta? Why is Krishna doing everything? If he does not do it, people who follow him will end up not doing it. So Krishna leads by example. So he says, we have to lead people by example, because everybody is going to follow what we have to follow. So with all this as the context, Bhagavan Krishna now says in the 4th chapter that, this is not the first time I'm explaining this great secret. I had taught this to Vivaswan. Vivaswan then taught it to Manu. Manu then taught it to Ikshvaku. So this is a parampara that was established. Imam Vivasvate yogam proktavanaham avyayam. Vivaswan manave prahaha. Manur ikshva ikshvakuke manoho ikshvakove bravit, right? So here the parampara, the importance, the significance of parampara is mentioned by Bhagavan. Even there, Bhagavan starts by saying, I was the one who pioneered it. It was taught by me to Ikshvaku. So he has taught to Vivaswan, the sun god. Sun god, the parampara continued to Ikshvaku. Now, evam parampara praptam. So this is how this entire, lineage has happened. But then, time, everything is lost. And whenever things are lost, Bhagavan brings it back. So Bhagavan is now explaining the greatness of this to Arjuna. And here also very clearly he says, you need eligibility to understand this. So why am I teaching this to you? You are my Bhakta and you are my Sakha. So Arjuna, earlier in the second chapter, 7th sloka, surrendered to Bhagavan Krishna. So he says, Shishyasteham shadimam tvam prapannam. So he says, I am, offering my surrender to you, O Krishna. Accept me as your student, as your disciple. Tell me what is right for me. So here, because he is a Bhakta, okay, and he is a Sakha, Krishna has the right to teach Arjuna whatever all this is. And it is a very, very important, secret, mysterious message. So such a great message is told to Arjuna by Bhagavan Krishna. So because you are my Sharanagata, Bhagavan tells this. Now, Arjuna, as usual, comes up with this next question. Now, you said you explained this to Vivaswan, but then you are born with me, you're my cousin, you're almost the same age as me. So how could you have told it at that point of time to Bhagavan, Surya? I'm now confused. Now, this gives the opportunity for Bhagavan to explain about the Paratva itself. So we are blessed to understand the greatness of Paramatma Tattva here from Paramatma's Mukha, straight from the horse's mouth. So what does Bhagavan say here? Shri Bhagavan Uvacha, from the 5th sloka, Bhagavan starts explaining about his greatness. Bahuni me vyatithani janmani tavacharjuna. So many janvas have passed, both for you and for me. But the most important thing is Tanyaham Veda Sarvani, Natvam Veda Parantapa. I remember every single thing, but you do not, right? So that is the difference. When we say Bhagavan is born, it is not being born here, right? Bhagavan comes here because he wants to come here. We are born here because of our karma. So that makes the big difference. So Bhagavan very clearly establishes that, Ajopisan, Avyayatma, Bhutanam, Ishwaropisan. This is where Bhagavan says, I am the Ishvara. I am the ultimate God. Ajopisan, Bhagavan is born, though he is unborn. Which means he is not born like the way we are born. He chooses to be born, and it's not because of karma. Ajopisan Avyayatma, he's Avyayatma. We cannot just, compile him into any of the vocabulary that we have. Bhutanam Ishwaraha. He is the Lord, not just of one person, not just of the other person. Some people can say, I am the Lord of this particular place. I'm a Bhupati, they can say. They can say, I am the owner of this particular thing. Bhutanam Ishwara. Of everything that we see, Bhagavan is the Ishwara. Prakritim Swamadishtaya Sambhavan Atma Mayaya. So Bhagavan says that, though I am unborn, my transcendental body will never deteriorate. Like usually when we are born, we have 6 stages from, Asti all the way to, the different 6 stages that we have. Finally, we die and then we are reborn. Punarapi Jananam, Punarapi Maranam. This entire cycle keeps continuing. But Bhagavan does not have these 6 stages. He is the Lord of all the living entities. But then he says, I appear Sambhavam Atma Mayaya, because of my Maya, I appear whenever I want. So when does Bhagavan appear? he again chooses. Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir-bhavati bharata abhyuktanam adharmasya sadatmanam srijamyaham. So whenever there is a decline, in dharma and adharma seems to increase, Bhagavan, decides to be born, and he comes. He comes out of his own wish. So here, all the avatar ragasyas are mentioned by Bhagavan. And what is the purpose of Bhagavan coming? Because if we think about it, because he is Sarvavyapi, he is the creator of everything, he is the Srishtikarta. Sitting there, can't he re-establish Dharma? Why should Bhagavan take an avatara here to re-establish Dharma? So Bhagavan explains the reasons of his avatara in the 8th sloka, where he says 3 important reasons. Paritranaya sadhunam, vinashaya cha dushkritam, dharma samsthapanartaya. So if it is only one of the 3 reasons, possibly Bhagavan will sit and do it there, which he always keeps doing. But then there are 3 reasons. Paritranaya sadhunam. So to protect, guide, take care, be a role model, help people who surrender to him is the primary reason which Bhagavan says. Paritranaya sadhunam. Vinashaya cha dushkritam. People who are doing wrong things, of course, Bhagavan has to help them by a different means. So when Bhagavan says vinashaya cha dushkritam, he is not going to, let them off. He is going to course correct them by nigraha. That's all. Dharma samsthapana. He is going to re-establish the dharma. So for this reason, sambhavami yuge yuge, every yuga after yuga, Bhagavan comes here. So the dharma samsthapanam and the vinashaya cha dushkritam, Bhagavan can, do wherever he is. But how will we understand? Now, Bhagavan said, he is being a role model for us. Yadyadacharati shreshtaha, he said. He is not visible for us. If he is not giving us the Bhagavad Gita, how will we know what to follow, how to follow? So he leads us by example. So to be a role model and lead by example, and to create scenarios where we can understand how to implement it in life, Bhagavan comes here, yuge yuge, sambhavami yuge yuge. So for our sake, Bhagavan comes. For our sake, he gives the Bhagavad Gita. For our sake, he makes Arjuna gets confused. For our sake, he makes Arjuna ask questions. Everything he does is for us. Otherwise, Bhagavan does not have to take his avatara here. So ajopi san avyayatma, in spite of not wanting, not being born, he is born for our sake. So that is the beauty here. And then Bhagavan says, janma karma cha me divyam, his transcendental nature is all divya. It is all completely divine. You have to know this. Yo veti tattvataha. If we understand the tattva of Bhagavan being eternal, Bhagavan being divya, Bhagavan does not take the birth like us, Bhagavan is here for our sake. He is going to help us, get rid of the cycles of births and deaths. So his body itself is transcendental. It's not like the material body that we have. The one who understands all these tattvas of Bhagavan, has a clarity of thought because of which he will actually be able to achieve the eternal abode of Bhagavan. So, Vitaraga Bayakrodaha, for this, what should we do? Bhagavan very clearly says we have to free ourselves from all the attachments. We should not be angry, because earlier itself he said, right? Kamayesha, Krodayesha, Rajoguna Samudbhavaha. So here he says, Vitaraga Bayakrodaha. So we should get rid of all the attachments, fears, anger, everything, and ultimately take refuge in Bhagavan. And he says, there are so many who have done this earlier. Bahavo Jnana Tapasa. So many people have taken this path earlier and they have actually achieved, my abode. So I'm not saying it as a first time experience for you. just follow the footsteps of whatever others have done. So you will be able to achieve me. So basically all these slokas, you know, he's saying earlier people have done, right? In the 10th sloka. Now, how did he start the first sloka? Imam vibhasvate. So from the first sloka, Bhagavan started saying that I, explained this to Vivaswan. And here he says that, this is not the first time I'm saying Bahavo Jnana Tapasa. By this kind of tapasa, there are so many people who've actually controlled their krodha, who've surrendered to me, who've actually, reached my abode. So Bhagavan connects it, reminds him in the 10th sloka again. When we want to enjoy Bhagavad Gita, it is not one separate sloka ever. It is always, Bhagavan will connect the dots from here to the first sloka to, the third chapter to the 18th chapter. Everything, together will give us a big picture understanding. So it's a beauty when we can analyze it that way. And then he says, a very, very important sloka, ye yathamam prapadyante tam stataiva bhajamyaham mama vartmanuvartante manushya pata sarvashah. Whoever surrenders to me, depending on what they look forward to, I will, give them what they want. Ye yathamam prapadyante. So prapadya is surrender. Those who surrender to me, I will reward them accordingly. So everyone follows my path in all respects, O Partha. So mama vartmanu vartante manushya partha sarvashah. So whatever they do, because ultimately everything is Bhagavan, right? We will be seeing that in the Brahmarpana sloka also. So this is the first part, from the first sloka till the 11th sloka, Bhagavan is now given a understanding of who he is and why we should, listen to whatever Bhagavan says. After this, Bhagavan gives us some understanding so that we know what we are supposed to do. We know about the past, and he gives us clear instructions as to do this, don't do this, etc. So, Chaturvanyam Maya Shrishta, Guna Karma Vibhagashah, a sloka which is really, people take this just for contradictory views these days. But the fact of the matter is, Bhagavan very clearly says, Guna Karma Vibhagashah. So I have classified based on the qualities and based on what you perform. So Guna Karma Vibhagashah, Chaturvanyam Maya Shrishta. I have created 4 varnas for you. So Tasya Kartaram Apimam, I am the Karta. Vidhi Kartaram Avyayam. But then, he is not attached to this. He is not really the doer of these whole things. So what happens here is, Name karmani limpanti, none of the karmas that happens actually touches on Bhagavan. So when people ask, if Bhagavan does this, will it not affect Bhagavan? Why would things affect Bhagavan? Even a small lotus, which is in a pond, is not affected by the water in the pond, right? So it stays aloof. So why would Bhagavan be affected by our karma? So Bhagavan very clearly tells us that, we have to really understand that the 4 varnas are here for us to understand what we have to do based on our qualities, based on our age, classification, rules, restrictions, everything. What are we supposed to do? What is the right action that we are supposed to do? So here, a very important instruction from Bhagavan is, Evam nyatva kritam karma purvairapi mumukshubhihi kuru karmaiva tasmatvam purvam purvataram kritam. In no uncertain terms, Bhagavan tells us, earlier, all our ancestors have followed a certain path, and they have actually come out of this chain of births and deaths, and they've understood the transcendental nature. Follow their footsteps, so just follow whatever is your parampara. Don't deviate from it. Do what they are supposed to do. Because earlier, Arjuna was asking, what happens to this dharma? What happens to that dharma? I don't have a benefit. So Bhagavan says, Parantapa, he addresses Arjuna as Parantapa, which means subduer of all the enemies. Subdue your main enemy, which is your karma and krodha. Don't just get diverted because of all your unwanted mental complications. Do what your ancestors did. Bharata, your ancestor has done that. Your entire parampara has done that. Do whatever they have done. So after this comes the most important concept of kim karma, kim akarma. What am I supposed to do? What am I not supposed to do? The nature of karma, the nature of vikarma, the nature of akarma. So when we are doing certain action, how am I supposed to do it? What should I do? What am I not supposed to do? So Krishna very beautifully says, karmano hyapi bodhavyam cha vikarmanaha. So how do we understand this concept? It is a very, very interesting thing, which can be understood, with a small scenario, if I explain. There was a king who was completely pressurized. There was another kingdom which was having a battle with him. Lot of monetary losses happened to the king. So with so much of monetary losses, not being able to feed the people, being invaded by another king, all these actually stressed out the king so much that he did not want to rule anymore. So he said, I'm going to take a sannyas and leave the place. So he tells the Rajaguru that he's going to take sannyas and leave. Now the Rajaguru says, okay, then do one thing. Hand over the kingdom to me before you go. So just obey whatever I say and you will be fine. So the king says, okay, fine, I will hand over the kingdom to you. Because the Guru said, right? The king actually obeyed whatever the Guru said. Once he handed over the kingdom, the Guru says, now that the kingdom is mine, I am ordering you to be my, a person, because I don't know anything how to, take care of the kingdom. So you have to be my guide. You have to be the mukhya person, the resource person, and tell me what I should do. So you will be employed by me, says the Guru. So the king says, okay, fine, I'll do as per your order. So whatever, was the right decision, the Guru would ask, so what would you do in this situation? He would say, this is what I would do. That is what I would do. And now the king is absolutely relaxed because the kingdom is not his. The Guru is taking care of all the decision making. The king is just giving his inputs to the Guru. So the Guru is the actual king. The king is just doing whatever is required. Now, after a quarter, the kingdom was perfectly fine. All the losses have gone. The person who invaded was handled properly and he was, given his due. Now, the Rajaguru asked him, how is the kingdom? He said, you are ruling it very well, Guru. So everything is perfectly fine. Guru asked, are you stressed? He said, what is there for me to stress? You are taking care of everything. I'm just doing whatever you're saying. So this is exactly the situation where kim karma, kim akarma. The king was not doing anything, is what he was thinking. But actually, he was performing everything. He was performing all actions. So Krishna says, whatever you have to perform, do it without actually thinking that you are doing it, So you are performing the action. Here, the king was thinking the Rajaguru is doing everything, but actually the king was doing it. So the burden of the action was not there in the king. It was all given to the Rajaguru. So Krishna says, it is all the Brahma Yajna which is performed. So do it without your attachment to the karma. Do it because it is part of the yajna. Don't think that you are doing it. So karmani akarma. In karma, you will be akarma. In akarma, you will actually see the karma once you realize your inner self. The Atma Jnana is the most important thing. So once you understand the distinction, you will know what you should perform, what you should not be performing, because the intention with which you perform is the most important thing. That is the most important part of the action. Karmanya ya karma pashyet. So karmani cha akarmani cha karmayaha. So in akarma you see karma, in karma you see akarma. So that is the way the entire understanding should happen, says Krishna. So to bring all this, to give the big picture, the Brahmarpana sloka is mentioned. Brahmarpanam Brahmahavihi Brahmagno Brahmanahutam Brahmaivatena Gantavyam Brahmakarma Samadhina. So here everything is attributed to the Brahma, right? Brahma Arpanam. So whatever, is the offering that we do using the ladle, the instrument, that is also Brahma. Havihi, the oblation is also Brahma. The Agni is also Brahma. Whoever is doing it, that he is also Brahma. What is offered, the Hutam, is also Brahma. Brahmaiva tena gantavyam, what is to be attained, that is also Brahma. Brahma karma, the karma offering is also Brahma. Samadhina, everything which is absorbed is also Brahma. So when we understand this big picture of how everything is connected by Bhagavan, whatever we do, we will be able to submit it as a part of the Nivedana or the Arpana or the Samarpana to Brahma. So for us to get to that level, Bhagavan speaks about several different yajnas in this Adhyaya. Around 12 different yajnas are mentioned. Deva yajnam, Brahma yajnam, Indriya Samyama yajnam, the Shabdadi Vishaya Nirodha yajnam, Mano Nigraha yajnam, Dravya yajnam, Tapo yajnam, Yoga yajnam, Swadhyaya yajnam, Jnana yajnam, Pranayama yajnam, and Ahara Niyama yajnam. All these are mentioned. We don't have to really perform the ritual. Even if you breathe, that could be a yajna, says Bhagavan. The intake of breath, that itself is a yajna. When it's a prana agnihotra, that is the kind of importance Bhagavan says. When we eat, that could be a yajna, which could be an offering to the Antaryami Bhagavan. So several different varieties of yajnas are mentioned by Bhagavan. Ultimately, Bhagavan says, all these, whenever you do these yajnas, what happens is the karmas that we perform helps us to understand the ultimate jnana. So jnana datta karmani, right? The ultimate purpose of this karma is to understand the great jnana which Bhagavan will help us understand. So what will happen is, just like how a fire can destroy the entire forest, this jnana, the agni of jnana, can actually help us get rid of all our sins. And when we get rid of all our sins, what will happen? We understand the great divinity which we are supposed to understand. So the fire of jnana will, help us understand and get rid of all these sins. So after explaining this great importance of karma in order to understand jnana, because karma leads us to jnana, which is the action that we perform as a yajna to Bhagavan. Bhagavan also says for this we need important qualification, which is Shraddhavan Labate Jnanam. To get this Shraddha, to get this jnana, we should have Shraddha. Nahi jnanena sadrasham pavitram vidyate. We have to have the ultimate jnana, because that is the ultimate pavitratva that we can have. And Shraddhavan Labate Jnanam, we need the Shraddha, which is the faith. Most of the translation will just have faith, but the fact is that what is the kind of faith is the validity of the teachings, which is going to help us have an empowered living, and which is going to help us understand the tattva the way it is mentioned, the tattva the way Bhagavan is given to us. So that is why Bhagavan has taken all the efforts to, help us step by step, in the process of understanding this great jnana, where we offer everything without personally, wanting the phala of it. So everything is about nishkamya karma. We are performing certain activities for Bhagavad Prityartham. Every time we perform an activity, we say, right? Kayena vacha manasendriyaiva buddhyatmana va prakriti swabhavat karomi yatyat sakalam parasmai narayanayeti samarpayami. So what happens? Whatever we perform, it is all for this yajna of Bhagavan. We offer everything as a yajna to Bhagavan. So it is not like, what do I get as a result of this? How does it benefit me? Because today everything has become materialistic. So the 4th chapter, Bhagavan says, get that jnana, because of which the intention will be right, which is going to distinguish karma, akarma, vikarma, etc. So that intention, the clarity of the intention should be that you are contributing to the Brahma Yajna, where Brahma will be the recipient, Brahma is the giver. You are a nimitta karana, which is again because of Brahma. Brahma is your antaryami, Brahma is the abyss. Everything is the beautiful cosmic creations, yajna, in which we are supposed to do our role. So, of course, Arjuna will have further questions, which moves on to the chapter 5. So this is a humble surrender, which I can do based on the small time that I had about this huge chapter, or the 4th chapter, which every sloka can actually, be a overwhelming experience for us. We could spend hours together contemplating on every pada which Bhagavan has given us. So Jai Shri Krishna, Khayena Vacha Manasendriyaiva, Buddhyatmana va Prakriti Swabhavat, Karomi Yatyat Sakalam Parasmai Narayanayeti Samarpayami, Sarvam Shri Krishna Arpanamastu. Jai Shri Krishna.
Thank you so much, Pravinaji. I was really wondering, this chapter is all about jnana and how you will bring out the bhakti and the karma into it, and you have done it so brilliantly and so beautifully. It was really wonderful, really very, very wonderful talk, and we are really pleased to have your talk for today's session. Amazingly conveyed and very, very eloquently put. So thank you so much. Hope you'll be staying around. There may be some questions by the audience a little later. We'll just complete this session for today, and after that we'll open up to the audience. Okay. So now we move over to, let me just start sharing again. Yeah, next we have this session. We have a mini quiz basically on just these 42 verses. So just about 10 questions, and this part of the segment will be hosted by Ananyaji. Ananyaji is very, she has been a very brilliant chanter, and she has won prizes so many times in the Gita Jayanti itself a few years ago. And now she's a brilliant dancer and a student at NTU. So basically this segment would like to be handled by youngsters. So I will welcome Ananyaji into this. Ananyaji, could you take over, please?
Thank you so much. Okay, so I will be going through the mini Gita quiz for session 5 today. So there are 2 types of questions. The first type is to be answered in a couple or few words, and the second type is to be answered in a sentence of less than 20 words. Questions in these quizzes will be based on the verses chanted in this specific session. So for this session 5 quiz will be based on the Gita Dhyanam of the chapter 4 that has been gone through in this session. So for this session, we'll be using the tinyurl.com/Gita mini quiz S5, which will be available now. So everyone can log in onto that to answer the questions that will be asked shortly. The questions for each session will be explained in the respective sessions. You can always see the session videos at the Gita Jayanti Facebook page or the Gita Jayanti YouTube channel again. Answers to questions and names of top correct responses will be presented at future sessions. So we'll move on to the type 1 questions, which is to be answered in a couple of or a few words. Question 1. Krishna tells Arjuna about the sequence of transmission of this yoga, Imam Yogam, which started long ago. Name the initial 3 persons in this sequence as spoken by Krishna. Moving on to question 2. In chapter 4, verse 13, which starts off as Chatur Varnyam Maya Srishtam, Krishna tells Arjuna that the 4 varnas are created by him based on 2 factors. What are these? Moving on to question 3. In chapter 4, verse 17, which starts off as Karmano Hyapi Bodhavyam, Krishna classifies karma or action into 3 categories. What are they? I think someone is asking for the link again, so I think we can send it in the chat once more. Yeah, so it's tinyurl.com/Gita mini quiz S5. And you have to take note of the capitalizations as well. Okay, moving on to question 4. In chapter 4, verse 23, which starts off as Rata Sangasya Muktasya, Krishna tells Arjuna that to dissolve the karma in its entirety, karma needs to be performed with what attitude? Moving on to question 5. In verse 33 of chapter 4, which starts off as Shreyan Dravya Mayat Yajnan, Krishna tells about the superiority of what type of yajna? That brings us to the end of the type 1 type of questions, and we'll be moving on to the type 2 questions now. So these questions are to be answered in less than 20 words. Longer answers will be rejected, so please keep your answers short. Okay, so the question 1 is in relation to the verse 7 and 8. Krishna gives 3 conditions that leads to the manifestation of Lord in the world as an avatara. What are the 3 conditions? Next question. In verse 19, which starts off as Yasya Sarve Samarambhaha, Krishna describes the characteristics of a Pandita. What are they? Question 3. From verse 25 to 30, various types of yajnas are talked about by Krishna. List at least 5 amongst them. Question 4. In what fashions should a student approach worthy teachers so that they will reveal the wisdom, jnana, as advised by Krishna? Question 5. In verse 39, which starts off as Shraddhavam labhate jnanam, Krishna lists 3 qualities required for attaining jnana. What are these? According to Krishna, what will happen to he who is devoid of jnana and without the 3 qualities mentioned earlier, who is doubtful of everything all the time? That brings us to the end of the mini Gita quiz for this session. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, Ananya. So you've done a beautiful job. Ananya is also a brilliant dancer, and she's a wonderful Bharatanatyam dancer, and she is also in our local television. She has performed several times. So really wonderful that you present this segment, so that people reach out. We also reach out to the youngsters. So thank you so much, Ananya. Okay, now we go to the next concluding mantras part. We are coming to the end of this session. So this will be done by Suniji, please.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Dhanyantara Murtaye Amritakalashahastaya Sarvamaya Vinashanaya Trailokyanadhaya Mahavishnave Swaha. Om Achyutaya Namaha, Om Anantaya Namaha, Om Govindaya Namaha, Om Achyutaya Namaha, Om Anantaya Namaha, Om Govindaya Namaha, Om Achyutaya Namaha, Om Anantaya Namaha, Om Govindaya Namaha, Om Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsachanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Bante Jagadgurum Loka Samastha Sukhino Bhavantu Loka Samastha Sukhino Bhavantu Loka Samastha Sukhino Bhavantu Kayena vacha manasendriyerva buddhyatmana va prakrute svabhavat karomi yat sakalam parasmai narayanaeti samarpayami. Om Purnamada Purnamitam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamataya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tat Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.
Hari Om. Thank you so much, Sunji. So now we have one announcement to make. We have an upcoming event happening on the next Saturday, exactly 1 week from today, next Saturday at 7 p.m. This is basically an online event. It happens on the Gita Jayanti's YouTube channel as well as on the Facebook page. So this is basically International Gita Forum by Swami Sarvapriyananda ji. He will be talking on the topic of self-realization, basically from taking clues or the verses from chapter 2, the Sankhya Yoga chapter. So it'll be a very he's a brilliant talker, a brilliant speaker on Bhagavad Gita as well as on Vedanta, various topics of Vedanta, and he's widely followed by several people across the world, especially in the US as well as in the academics, including IITs and all that. He's a very, very actively listened to speaker. So it will be a beautiful opportunity. So we'll welcome everybody to come and join this session live, so that you will be able to actually ask some questions on the online on YouTube channel as well as Facebook page, so that he may, if he gets time, he may be able to answer some of the questions. So please rejoin again. Let me remind International Gita Forum, 4th June 2022, 7 p.m. Singapore time, and it will be available live streamed on Gita Jayanti's YouTube channel as well as Gita Jayanti's Facebook page. That's all the announcement for today, and we thank you for attending today's session. And the next Parayan and Satsang session, the sixth issue, will be sixth episode, will be 2 weeks from today, basically on 11th June at the same time. So see you all at that time. So now let me. Now I'll enable everybody to actually unmute yourself. You'll be able to unmute yourself, and request everybody to actually enable your videos, please, so that we can take some small pictures or photographs. Request everybody to enable your videos, please. Videos. Could you kindly enable on your videos, please? Okay, that's about it. So thank you so much. And now our distinguished speaker, Praveenaji, is available. So anyone has any questions can actually ask your questions. And you can actually unmute yourself and speak. Rajesh, better to ask your comments.
Thank you, Krishna ji. I'm absolutely floored by the eloquence of the distinguished speaker, Praveena ji. I mean, she has such a smooth command on Bhagavad Gita. And what I have always been sharing is Bhagavad Gita is such a source of knowledge. Actually, we cannot even describe what kind of knowledge. It is the infinite knowledge, which can be summarized in one shloka. That is the beauty of the knowledge of Bhagavad Gita, that the entire knowledge can be summarized in one shloka. And that is something which was so amazing to me when I heard my Guruji saying that in the verse 8-7, the Tasmat Sarveshu Kaleshu Mahamanushmar Yudhyacha, which is just half the shloka of 7th shloka of the 8th chapter, so Akshar Brahma Yoga. That in this verse alone, the entire message of Bhagavad Gita is conveyed. That if you go about your life doing your work diligently, with the best of your potential and remembering Lord Shri Krishna in the true sense, that is what Bhagavad Gita is teaching. But otherwise, the knowledge of Bhagavad Gita is so much that so many lifetimes are also not enough to explain. So how Pravina ji mixed the two, I was absolutely, amazed at the fluency and at the smoothness. The chapter 4 is very, very dear to me also. Just I wanted to add a point when Shri Krishna says yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata, etc., etc. When he says janma karm chame divyam evam yo vetti tatvatah tyaktva deha punarjanma naiti mameti so Arjuna. That shloka also floored me, Krishna ji, because in that shloka Krishna says if somebody knows that my birth is divine and my actions are divine, he will never be born again. And I was so floored with this statement that just by knowing the fact that Sri Krishna's birth is divine, it is not like a biological birth like ours. His entire, the birth and his actions are divine. The knowledge itself is so purifying and elevating that you are liberated. You don't have to be born again. That's what he says in the 4th chapter. So 4th chapter is so amazing. The last point I just wanted to add was I always used to wonder about the shloka, यदा यदा हि धर्मस्य ग्लानिर्भवति भारत अभ्युत्थानाम धर्मस्य तदात्मानां सृजाम्यहं परित्राणाय साधूनां विनाशाय च दुष्कृताम् Dharma Samsthapana Artha hai Sambhavami Yuge Yuge, and the doubt would come. Why is Shri Krishna saying that? To kill somebody, he has to take avatar. That he can do in so many ways. Even an ordinary chief executive, without going to a place, can get his work executed. And then I heard my Guru Maharaj explaining, of course he does that, he takes avatar. But there is a hidden message. The hidden message is he comes into the avatar to enact leelas, which become the focal point, which become the basis for our devotion. Otherwise, he can transact whatever, in whichever form. But he comes and performs infinite leelas so that we can remember those leelas and we can advance in our devotion. And that's why he lifted Govardhan Parva. That's why he killed Putana. That's why he killed so many demons. That's why he played Ras Leela. That's why he interacted with the gopis. This is all I have to say. Krishna ji, thank you so much. Every time you ask me for an icebreaker, so thank you so much.
Yeah, you're the ideal guy, Rajesh.
No. I'm a learner. I'm a student. But what Bhagavad Gita has transformed me, there is no doubt about it. 30 years back, I started reading. And this is something which has become so passionate that my office people also wonder what is this guy, talking about all the time, because now I'm there in internet, in LinkedIn, in Facebook, so I can't hide it from my corporate bosses.
Yes, correct.
Thank you so much. Radhe Radhe Hari Om. We must hear something from Sunil ji.
Yeah, Sunil ji. Yes.
For inviting me. Okay. See, this Brahma Satyam Jagat Midhya Jivo Brahmaiva Naparaha. Vedanta Sara Sangraha is Gita. If you put it in words, you can have many speculations. We are expressing devotion. Actually, devotion is again, it's experience. Here, there, if it is not subjective, as we say that Krishna was born and he himself negates it many places. So what does it mean in reality? Actually, he says that he has given it to Vivaswan and all those because, and he analyzes Karma Tattva and Brahma Tattva, where we have seen there cannot be two. Karma Tattva, he negates later. While moving, there is only from actually the first primordial energy to the blade of grass or stambha. It is all movements. And Krishna is static, where actually you have, while moving, you have to give your attention, Mamanusmara Yudhija, to the static, which is Brahma Tattva, where all these expressions Krishna is negating again and again in this, but we have to, as because we are the part of karma, one who have the feeling that you are born, you have to follow all this. And he ajobi san avyatma, that itself in the second, third padas is he negates sambhavami atma maya. What does it mean? Maya means yama, I am not, that which is not. So where these things actually gives us a kind of arriving understanding, but experience cannot be explained. You can have flowery words, you can use this example or that example, but here conclusion anchoring into that subjective Vedanta, which is beyond all expressions. But when your intellect is pure, you will buddhigrahyam adindriyam, up to the level of mind, it is all illusion. When by practice, which is brooding over, reflecting upon the principle, when your intellect becomes pure, you can grahya, understand and experience that principle. But here, all these gradations, which is in the transactive level, that is, I would like to say, where Krishna says Karma Yoga, after giving that ultimate thing in the second chapter, then brings us to those who are think that this world is real. They are, someone has to guide. This is just like seeing a rope, a snake coming and saying, a man coming from seeing the rope, a man who is mistaken seeing rope as a snake and having a conversation, saying that, oh, he is bit trembled with fear of death. Then this person is, it is not, that is not snake, it is rope. So here, until we experience that truth, this is all actually play of beautiful words. In reality, Krishna says it, that is why here it's given by Vedavyasa, who has experienced that non-dual experience, pen picturing Krishna as that highest beyond intellect, Paramatma Tattva, where we have to really live within reality. We do not know what is the constitute of conscious level of each one, but you can actually take that into and chop the person or do so many kinds of such arguments and things. But here in reality, subjectively, Krishna himself negates that he has never born, ajaha, what he said. And this philosophy is for us to, those who are in this many names and forms, to hold on to that truth and slowly, Sri Samatva, see Samatva in that Vishama, always see Brahma Tattva, while even receiving the rewards, you have to see that Brahma Tattva by which you can experience that your true nature, which is bliss. That's what I would like to say, because it is Vedanta Sara Sangraha by any masters. But for us to imbibe it, to absorb, you need to have certain discipline. Our discipline is actually a mental discipline, thinking and reflecting upon the principles of Veda, Upanishad, maybe Brahma Sutra and Bhagavad Gita. Hari.
Sunil has put the other side of the picture, the jnana aspect, the non-dual way of looking at things. So thank you so much, Sunil. Pravinaji, you want to say something in response?
Yeah, Dhanyavada, Sunilji. Sunilji and myself, we both are part of Samskrita Bharati, and always he speaks of the Advaita version, and I, speak about Bhakti also. So this is a constant discussion that we have, the rope and
very transaction, very nice way. It is true for those who cannot imbibe this. My way is totally different. That's why I'm.
Yeah. I know.
Kind of
so the rope and the snake example also, ultimately, it is the vichara of the acharyas which say that there was still the rope. The rope was still there. So it is not like the rope was not there. So the rope was there. Whether it was a snake or not is a different discussion. So that is the way many other acharyas have also interpreted it. So we cannot say that the fourth chapter is Advitiya Tattva. It is definitely like, different acharyas matacharyas have given different interpretations. So as I said, the last sloka of the third chapter also, the Saha has an interpretation, whether it is Paramatma or Atma or desire. So similarly, the fourth chapter has also been interpreted by different acharyas differently. We can choose which suits us best. So that's
Pravinaji,
what I would like to say.
not negating any of them. Taihi aham na viruddhyate. Actually, Gaudavatacharya says all these dual, special monism and Advaita, when Shankara has did that Sarvatnya Pitha Arohana, where he negated all this, if there is two, these confusions will be there.
नैव
I'm
नैव
just talking
एतादृशं
about that.
वक्तुं न शक्नुमः खलु किमर्थम् इत्युक्ते सः एताद् निर्णयं कृतवान् समानमेव शतदूषणी इति एकः ग्रन्थः अस्ति तत्र अद्वैतस्य विरुद्धम् अस्ति एतादृशं बहवः ग्रन्थाः सन्ति एव. So we can always take the appropriate grantha which negates the other point of view. That's not the thing. We have to understand the big picture and suit what is suited for us in this scenario, right? So
that's what I'm saying actually.
Yeah.
That God alone exists. That Krishna is actually in Tattva, not that floated Krishna. Alone exists. Once we connect that Samatva, everything, every act, every thought to that, actually then we may experience that oneness. That's what where actually this Advaita Tattva, when we explain. That's what Shastra also says. It become arochakam when it is, more these things.
Yeah, but the very fact remains that we are all living in a dualistic world, and we are all in this dual world. So I think the fact is that we are dual. So whether there is a non-dual is a theory that is given by the great masters. Hopefully that is true. And what happens once we cross our limitations and reach that state is something is for us to imagine in a future time.
That's what the subjective.
So, yeah, our objective should be how to the devotion and this jnana in such a way that we eliminate the negative forces, and what happens after that is something which will happen.
It is all again goes back to the same.
Yeah. So I think disputes about Advaita, Dvaita is not is really at
each one's level. It's great.
Because at the moment we are all in Advaita, so we have to appreciate the fact that we have to have devotion, we have to have what do you say, Pravinaji?
Nobody negates that.
Definitely.
Yeah. So there is no alternative to living in this world. There is no alternative to talking. There is no alternative to Zoom. So, okay, unless if anybody else has any other questions, otherwise it's already 1:15 plus, and it's time for lunch for all of us.
I have to ask only the yajnas, about the name of the yajnas. How many?
There are 11 or 12 or something, right?
Yeah, 12 yajnas.
So can you tell me the name of the yajnas? Brahma yajna, Deva yajna I wrote, and Indriya Samya yajna.
Actually, there are different slokas in which all the yajnas are enumerated in Bhagavad Gita itself. So it starts from verse 25.
I'll show you. I'll show here right now.
Deva yajna. So it starts with the.
It starts here.
Deva meva pare yajnam. Yogina. Exactly.
You can see on the screen, right? Yeah. You can go ahead after this. Yeah. Next one.
Yeah. So you have the Deva yajna, the Brahma yajna, Indriya Samyama yajna, Shabdadi Vishaya Nirodha yajna, Mano Nigraha yajna, Dravya yajna, Tapo yajna, Yoga yajna, Swadhyaya yajna, Jnana yajna, Pranayama yajna, and Ahara Niyama yajna.
Ahara Niyama is it?
Yeah, Niyama. Controlling the food.
Apare niyataharaha.
I got only 11. Brahma, Deva, Indriya Samyagya, Yoga, Jnana, Pranayama, Mano
Nigraha. Controlling the mind. Yeah.
And Dravya, Dabo, Swadhyaya,
Yoga. You have
yoga. I told only one missing.
Yoga yajna.
Ahara Niyama.
Brahma yajna.
Yeah, okay.
Brahma
I wrote it. Okay, one missing.
Okay. Daiva, Brahma, Indriya, Shabdadi, Mano, Dravya, Tapo, Yoga.
Sabdadi I left. Okay. Sabdadi.
Yeah, okay. Praveen, I have one question about this one. This verse 32, Evam Bhuvita Yajnaha Vitada Brahmano Mukhe. So it says Vitada Brahmano Mukhe. Karmajan Vidhitan Sarvan Evam Jnatva Vimokshase. So that's what it says, this verse. So it actually says that all these yajnas that we are talking about so far is all based on Karmajan Vidhi. So that means they're all based on karma and basically ignorance. So Evam Jnatva. So basically he's actually sort of negating the relevance of these yajnas in this verse, right?
No, it's not totally negating. That is in order to, we do all these yajnas so that will lead us to the jnana. So performing that while we constantly think of it, but then he says the jnana yajna is superior to these. So it is not really negating. It is like people do this in order to accomplish that, but those who can do a jnana yajna is even greater. So that is the comparison that's drawn.
It says Vitata Brahmano Mukhe. So what does it mean? It has come from the mouth of Brahma, right?
Yes. Brahma, it can be it's mentioned in the Vedas, can also be there.
Vedas, yeah. Okay.
And
so these are mentioned, but the jnana yajna is superior. That comes after this also, right?
Yes, correct, exactly.
Later it says that Jnatva, you can't avoid doing action, by doing which when you have known it, that all these were karma movements, then you attain the supreme.
Magram pravidiyate. That's what
Brahma, from Brahma, only the karma starts. From Paramatma, there is no karma, which Pravinaji said. From Paramatma, there is no karma. From Brahma onwards, the karma is there. That's why Vidado Brahmanam Khe. And all when we get ripened to know that this is all karma, jnana is that true experience, then you are vimokshase. You are getting to that total liberation.
Yeah, this can also be understood as these are various yajnas which ultimately lead us to Brahma.
Yeah, same thing.
So it can lead us to Brahman.
After doing, when you attain that knowledge that it is all karma, it is not Brahma, you be one with that Brahma.
One doubt in the sloka I want to ask you. 39th sloka. The other teacher, when we study, they say Tat Paras Samyatendriyaha Padichangla, the Sayatendriyaha or Samyatendriyaha?
Samyatendriyaha.
That, Samyatendriyaha only correct, na? Sometimes Saya we will get, right?
Actually, it's Samyatendriya. I wouldn't say it is wrong, but different people recite it differently. It can also be like, the way people have learnt it. So maybe I wouldn't call it wrong, but usually it's Samyatendriya.
North and south. Or
so this is actually this is called Anuswaram. This this letter is called Anuswaram. The way Anuswaram is pronounced is done in different styles by different people, different traditions. So there are some traditions which will call it as Samyatendriya, but I think officially the more popular version is not Samyatendriya is better. I think I feel the way our people are chanting. I think our chanters have done a beautiful job. I personally feel at least in that is a little bit more acceptable. Even there are a lot of other issues like Brahma, Brahma, and Brahma and things like that. There are so many ways in which things can be
all
chanted.
Brahma is first him and then her, right?
Yeah, Brahma. That is because of the Vyakarana Amsha. We there is a debate there, but a lot of people say Brahma. Brahma is what major people pronounce it as. So.
Yeah, that is also a disputable one. There are a lot of, we discussed this within our chanting group also. And this has been a topic of great discussions. And actually, even in the Vidyut Parishads also, even Indian Sanskrit scholars, these topics are discussed. So it's not that it is actually only topics within us. So and many traditions do follow both traditions. Some people follow Brahma and some people follow Brahma. So both are fine. I mean, as far as we are concerned, we are not we are sticking to one truth. We are taking to multiple truths.
Brahma help us do some pranayama. That's all.
Yeah, correct. So Brahmarpanam. But like, for example, when there's a dirgha comes after that ma or maha is very important. So yeah. Okay, so if there are no other questions, I think we will terminate for session for today. I hope it's okay for everybody, right?
Wonderful.
Gita ji, any questions?
Hari Om.
Hari Om, and thank you everybody. Thank you to all our guest of honor for today, our Alok Pandaji, then our distinguished speaker for today, Praveena ji, and all the wonderful chanters, and our quiz master for today, and all the participants for today. So thank you so much for making this wonderful session, and all our offering to Lord Krishna. And please don't forget to attend our next the Gita Forum, which is happening next Saturday, which is at 7 p.m. Available online through YouTube as well as Facebook. Okay, see you all next session.
Hari Om.
Hari Om.